Good. So we start back. We go back. So we just finished this one. This looks chunk 3. So we have seen list and factors. Okay. Solution only? No solution. So list. So these are the lists that we were talking about, and you're going to see how it looks like. We're going to create a list with 4 different components. We are going to call it my list, and to create a list, we use the function list. We open parentheses, and here I can break it down into pieces so maybe you will see it better. We have 4 different components, okay? One is going to be called name, and it's a concatenation of the words Fred and Lola. Another one is going to be called my numbers, and it has A. What is A? If you remember, we called A before. It was the first vector we created that I said it has a horrible name, never use it. We are using it again, okay? And then it has my matrix component, that it's a matrix. It's the matrix that we created before, that is called number of matrices, number matrix. And then age, and this is gonna be overriding and our age variable that we had before, okay? So maybe call it age2. Okay, you see why? Okay, so age2 is gonna be a value, just one value. So it's gonna be a numeric vector with one element, that is 5.3. So if I run this, my list, I have 2 ways to look at it. I can look at it here. So it's a list of 4 components, and these are the different components that you have inside. You can also type it here and see what's happening. So my list is gonna show it to you with a $sign indicating the different components you have inside that list. So remember, we are all working in the same floor. Each of those boxes are an individual. So these are the different boxes we have. We have a box that is called name, another one that is called my numbers, another one that is called my matrix, and then we have another one that is called age2. Within those boxes, we have different values, okay, different elements. So this one here is the first element of the first component. Okay, so if you think about boxes, you have the big my list. Inside my list I have 4 boxes, and within each of those boxes I have different things. So I may not minimize, but make it half. So the way to index a list, as I mentioned before, is with double brackets. Okay, so I write down my list, double brackets, and then a number. This will be the second component of the list. So if I run that line, looking at my list here, what would you expect to find? This one here. You can run it, see what happens, and then let me know what you found. So you find the vector, this was a vector, a numeric vector, my numbers, okay, because that is the second component of my list. Now, what if I want an element, a specific element within that my numbers vector? So I will first say, okay, I want my numbers, the second component, and once you specify which component you want, you just do single brackets, and specify which element of that component you want. Okay, so if I run this one here, what do you think I will get? 5.3, perfect, which is very confusing because it's the same as this. What a horrible example I did here. So I'm going to change this one for 6.8. Now I'm going to override my list, okay? So I'm going to run this chunk again. I'm just there. I click run or control enter. I have a look at it again. Okay, I change it. Perfect. So I don't have any problems now. Let's do the same thing. I run my list, second component. Within the second component, give me the third element. Okay, now yes. 5.3. I am sure it's this one. Okay? Any questions? So I'm gonna let you look at these two examples on your own. So what we are doing there is like, if you know the name of that component, you can just type the name, because sometimes you know that is the second component, but sometimes if you are working with meaningful data, for you it's easier to just like give the name, the exact name of that variable. And sometimes also, if you are manipulating your data, that variable that you're working with might be the second component for some time, but then you are adding another variable, you are creating, you are subtracting variables, you are eliminating variables, so it's not the second element anymore. So if you run this code, it's going to give you another component of the list, okay?
Or you might have similar numbers or stuff in two different variables or something, or you might get confused.
Yeah, you might get confused because they are just numbers. So they are not meaningful to our brain, just a number. So to our brain, especially with us that we work with meaningful data, that these things mean something, it's not just random number that we are generating. We can just like give the name of the variable, of the, in this case, of the component, okay? Now factors. Factors are a little bit tricky because on their own, they are not a specific type of data. They're still like another vector, okay? But they are factors because they are having this categorical data within them, inside them. So in the PowerPoint, I forgot to say, if you click in the word factor that is in a different color, it sends you to a link where they explain a little bit more things about factors if you want to look at it. So here we're going to create a vector that is called gender, okay? And again, don't pay a lot of attention to this, but what we are repeating is like, what we are doing, we are repeating the word male 20 times, and then we are also repeating the word female 30 times. So I run that one there, okay? I want to look for it here. Look for that because we have many. So this is a character vector, okay, a string, length 50, and the first few elements are male, 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 male. So if I run it here, we see that it's a vector, okay, and it's repeating here, it finishes here, and it goes to the second line. So these numbers here, this is indicating that this is the first element. This 14, it's indicating that this is the 14th element, okay? If you ever need to count for any reason, you can use these numbers here. If I do this a little bit smaller, this changes. I don't see it well, but I can run gender again, and this is another little trick. If you're in console, you just click here and you click the up arrow, and it's gonna give you the latest command that you run. If you keep going up, it's gonna give you whatever is in the history, okay? Another way to see that is like, if you go to the environment window here, instead of being on the environment tab, you click on the history tab. And these are the last few commands we've been running, okay? This I usually don't use it much because I get lost very quickly. It's all black and I don't see it well. But if for any reason you need to search something that you did in your R session, it will be here. Be aware, this window is not saved neither, unless you save it on purpose, okay? So if I close this, well, you'll see it when we finish. But usually this data won't be saved. I don't save this data. It doesn't tell me that much. All this is going to be saved. This is what I want to keep because this is what I consider works. Here I might have a lot of things that don't work, and I don't want to keep them. So what I was saying, I make this smaller. I go here and I click up arrow. ESC, ESC. And so this is the last one I run. I don't want to run that one. No, it's because, okay. Gender. Okay, this is the last command that I run. So I click it again. And now you see these values change. They are not the same as those before. Why? Because I just make this window smaller. And it's telling me this element here is the 10th element now. Okay, so you understand a little bit what it's giving you. So I'm using the function class to see what type of data we have. We already know it's a character vector because we look it up there, but this is a very useful function that I use a lot of times just when I'm manipulating my data to see how it was downloaded from Excel to R, and so I check it a lot of times. So it's telling me it's a character, no surprise. If I do the same with my list, it's a list. This is what you would expect, okay? Now, I think that if I have a vector of strings with male, 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 and female, I think that it's a categorical variable. You have female and you have male. So I want R to read this variable as categorical. So I just say factor. Make gender factor, okay? If I just run this one, okay, let's do it here. It's saying, okay, so now this is the information that you have inside this factor gender. You can see that you don't have the quotes anymore. Okay, so R is saying, okay, this is a factor now. And you can see here at the end of the factor gender, it's giving you the different levels we have. So in this case, we only have 2 levels. We have female and male. The first one that R is giving you is the first one according to the alphabetical order. So F goes before M, so it's giving you female before male. Okay, what happened here? If I run gender again, it still has the quotes. Why?
The original data?
It's the original data. So what happened is, like, I called factor gender, but I didn't assign this to the object that we were calling gender. So to get gender as factor and really change it, I need to assign it. I need to assign factor gender to gender. And you can just do it like this and you will be overriding gender, or you maybe prefer to do something like this to be sure that this variable, you know, it's a gender but in the factor form. Okay, or you can write whatever you want, or you can just, if you are sure you don't need gender as character, just override it. That's up to you, but be careful when you're overriding. Okay, so if I run gender now, I see the same thing as I saw before when I ran just the function with the gender. Okay, exactly the same thing. I see all the different values I have. I don't see quotes anymore, and I see the different levels. Questions? If I ask R what is the class of gender right now, it's going to tell me it's a factor. So it worked. I'm happy. What are the levels of this factor? I can just ask levels gender. And as I mentioned, it's going to give it to me in alphabetical order. We can change the order of the levels of a factor by doing something like this. We say factor as before, as we did here. We write down the object that we want to modify, and then we say levels are going to be the combination of male and female. So now I'm forcing as male being before and female is going to come after. Okay, so if I do that here, I'm calling it gender 2 so we can compare later on. And I ask for the levels of gender 2, we are going to get male first and female later. Okay, this might be not important, but when you are working with factors, this is key. Okay, depending on what you're doing, simple things, you don't have to worry. If you're doing things that are a bit more complicated, you will have to worry. Okay, so all these have significance towards what I think we are going to be working on. We can also change the label's name by renaming the labels. Okay, so imagine I don't like male and female and I want to give it a different name. In some of the data set that I had so far from you, in some places I have ACH, and in some places I have acute care hospital. So if I want to put those two together, it's better, they're the same level really, they are both of them ACH, so I will be using a code something like this, but yeah, I wouldn't be calling it red and yellow, but something similar. So I do factor, again, I call the variable the object I want to change, and the labels are going to be red and yellow. So if I run this one, this is gender 3, and I look at the levels of gender 3 are going to be red and yellow. Okay? If you go to the environment here, you can see gender, gender 2, and gender 3, though all of them are factors with 2 levels. The first one is alphabetical order, and here you see a bunch of 2s. Here you see a bunch of 1s. Here again you see a bunch of 2s. Do you know what's happening here? And you have a key here. So R treats factors as integer vectors. Okay, integers are numbers, like full numbers, 1, 2, 3. So each of these numbers corresponds to a category. So here we have the first one is female, the second one is male. So if I see a bunch of 2s here, that means that I have a bunch of males. Okay? This one, we change the order. The first one's male, the second one's female. So here, a bunch of 1s means a bunch of males. Okay? And the same here. Here we call female, we call it red, and male, we call it yellow. So these 2s are going to be a bunch of yellows. Is that more or less clear? So if you want to avoid confusion, for me again, like label and level, it's complicated in my mind, so I always get confused. So if you want to change both of them, you can do it at the same time. And this is just like a combination of what we did here. We've called factor, and then you have the object we want to change, a comma, then you are dealing with the levels, and then you are dealing with the labels. Okay? So here I use Spanish. So male is going to be hombre, female is going to be mujer. Okay? This here, if you can see, I separated in different rows just for easier visualization when I'm reading my code. You don't need that. You can put all these together and I will read it the same. Okay? We have a comment here. That comment can be in between. I am not sure about this actually. Let's see. No, because it doesn't like it. So what happened there, I tried to put it all together, and let's repeat it. It thinks that all this is a comment as well. Okay, so I don't want that. Let's bring it back again. Okay, everything's fine again. Let's do it once again. It all becomes a comment. And suddenly R is like, wait, what's happening? Something's wrong. This code doesn't make sense. Each of these is, R is trying to tell you in its own special language, because R is usually not very clear, but it's telling you something's happening. I was expecting a comma, and I don't see it. So yes, you have a comma here, and you were this is a comma, so it jumps to the next one, so it will jump here, and it's expecting a comma. It doesn't see it. Something's wrong. So let's make it right again. Okay. Before you are clicking enter, if you have this type of things that you want to break into different rows to see it better, you need to put that comma in there. Okay. Otherwise, R will be a little bit lost. This will be with things like this type of functions. It might be different with some other packages. We will see that, for example, with ggplot, which is the package of tools that we're going to use for visualization. It won't be a comma. We will have something different. So there are exceptions, but usually that's the rule. We can look again, this function, we saw it before, the structure of the first gender, gender 2, gender 3, gender 4 that I did not run. Okay? And we see all the different changes that we did. It's basically the same thing that we saw already there. So now R treats gender as a nominal variable. And we can do summary. Summary is another function. And it's telling me you have 30 females and you have 20 males. Okay? If we have an ordinal variable, we need to add the argument order true. So we are telling R there is an order here. Okay, otherwise it will make it as a factor, but it won't give you an order. So I created this one that is quality product. I'm gonna assign this. This is just a vector with good, bad, average, 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 good, bad, good, good, good. If I run it, I can see it here, and I'm doing here up arrow, and then at the beginning I'm gonna say class, and I run it. This is a character, okay, you see the quote, so you know it's a character. I want to create it, I want to make a factor out of it, so I put the object that I want to make a factor, and then I say order equal true, okay, this is key, then a comma, and then I'm gonna say the levels are these. We are gonna start with the worst one, bad, average, and good, and this is the order that I want R to read this factor with. So I run that, and if you see, I call it underscore factor. And if I call it and I look at it, either here or here in the environment, somewhere in here, I can see that it's giving me the value. Okay, this is the same as this, but without the quote. And now we see this here. Instead of just like naming the different levels we have, it's telling us which one is higher than the other one. You see this? Bad is lower than average, average is lower than good. So if you have an order variable, this is how you will have to do it. An order factor, okay? If we look at the structure of it, it's telling me it's an order factor. If you remember, we look at the structure of gender, it doesn't say anything like that. It just tells me these are the factors that you have, okay? So some other functions, we already saw some of those. We have family data frame. I just ran it for you to remember what it is. The structure of it, it tells you it's a data frame, 4 observations, 2 variables, and we have these 2 columns. This column is a factor with 4 levels. We'll see if we want to keep it like that or not. And we have age, which is a numerical vector. So again, here I'm mentioning again, we have a data frame. We can do the help of data frame. Y is family. A factor, we already know that one. What you could do, I have it here. If you want to make it, keep it as a character, because I think that the name, your own name in a family is not really a factor, because it's not that we're going to have 3 Claires. Maybe you do, Claire Jr., but it might be. But if you want to keep it as a factor, when you create that data frame, you have to add this argument to that data frame function, okay? And it is string as factors equals false. Why? Because again, if we go to question mark data frame, so here I'm highlighting it and clicking run. The default value, yeah, well, it's here. If you read through the documentation, the default value of this that we saw before, it's make it a factor. So factor true. We don't want that. We want it false. So if we run this like that, and notice here that I'm changing the name of our object, and I look at the structure, now the vector family, the column, the variable family, it's a character. Okay? So this is a way that you can have to choose if you want it to be transformed into a vector, into a character or a factor. Okay, you will use this argument. Any questions here? Okay, so here I want you to play with this for a little bit, see what's happening, and think a little bit about those questions. Remember, green stickers is like you're done. Red one, you have a problem. Nothing, you're still working on it. Okay, so no questions. I'm gonna quickly run through it. So head is a function that shows you the first 6 rows. Okay, if you just run it like that, like this one that I'm highlighting, it usually gives you the first 6. We only have 4 in this case, so it will only give you 4. When I am loading data into R, I always use this function because I want to be sure that my data has been loaded correctly. Okay, so I use it all the time. If you only want the first 2 rows, you can do a comma and then add 2. If you want 20 of those, well, we don't have it now, so I cannot show you, but you will write 20 here, and it will give you the first 20. Okay, if you don't do anything again, it will only give you the first 6 all the time. We have summary that we already saw. No, we haven't seen this before, have we? I'm not sure. So this is the the summary function, and it gives you a summary of each of your variables. We only have 2 right now, so only these 2. If it's this one here right now, it's a factor, so it's saying there is 1 Anita, 1 Claire, 1 Pablo. If it's numerical, it's gonna give you all these values here: the minimum, the first and third quantile, the median, the mean, and the maximum. Okay, so if you run summary, it's gonna give you a lot of different things about each of your variables. If you say div is another function, then it's telling you the dimension of your data frame. Oops, sorry, I need to run it all. So it has 4 rows and it has 2 columns. Okay, this is really useful when you are starting to merge different data and you're manipulating your data. This is also a function, very simple, that I use all the time, just to double check that one of the 20,000 things that I do to double check that what I'm doing is exactly what I want to do. This is the min function that I was mentioning at the beginning. If I run it, it's giving me a warning message and it's giving me an ace, which are like missing values, but yeah, we don't have any missing values in our data. But I need to specify a column because I didn't tell which variable I want the mean from. So I say, okay, give me the mean of family, and then remember $sign to assign which variable I want. So you say, I want $sign age. So give me the mean of age, and it will give you the mean. You can do the same with sum and for many other things. If I do mean of age, okay, now it's working because I created. If I go here and I look for age, you can see that I have a vector that is called age, because this is how I created my data frame, but maybe you created it in a different way. Okay, but this mean of age is saying the mean of age according to this vector here. This age, right now, it happens to be the same one as this one, but it's not this one. Okay? Do you understand that? Yeah? Okay, brilliant. Perfect. So now we're going to jump again to the PowerPoint. I have one more chunk, which is the one about missing data. We are finishing at 4:15 today. I don't know if you want me to go a little bit quicker to finish this one, if you want to finish next time.
How long more or less?
It might be 15 minutes. We try?
I vote next time, but other people might feel differently.
Yeah, because maybe you're tired already. Maybe. Okay. Okay, sure. Thanks.
Excellent.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. So do you want me to go through it? You prefer like maybe because today we've already been, I mean, next time is going to be a bit shorter, and 2 hours of coding can be like, yeah. Okay, so we leave this for next time? Perfect. So I'll tell you, I'll go through this next time, and then I'm going to start preparing for next time. We'll see missing data. And then I had this is next time probably. We're going to work with importing data. We're going to do data manipulation and cleaning data, which is going to be the dplyr library. And then in the future, we will work with the ggplot library. And at the end, let's see if this works. No, okay. Well, perfect. Doesn't work. Never mind. That's a network. I don't know why it doesn't, though. Because
So
yeah, it is here. Yeah.
when I try to click on that it was showing me a blank on those internet explorer
This one?
links. Yeah, all those links. Yeah, those two.
These two. They don't work?
Open them.
Okay.
So
I try my computer in different folders and it works. I don't know here.
Showed me a blank.
Okay. Okay, I'll look into that. This was just a, let me stop this because not interesting anymore. This was just an example of